to welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of the Planning Committee. This planning meeting is being broadcast live over the internet and will be available to view online now and in the future. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Those attending in the chamber, please be aware that we are all on camera and you may be visible on screen when people around you are speaking. And please remember to speak clearly into your microphones. And committee members participating remotely, can you please refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raised hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. May I remind members that as per statutory guidance made under Section 4 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011 and our formally adopted hybrid meeting policy, any member attending a meeting remotely must be able to be seen and heard by the members and officers who are attending the meeting, as well as by members of the public viewing the meeting. So can I ask that you all please use your cameras for the duration of the meeting? Thank you. Right, we'll move on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, attendance and apologies. Rachel, do we have any apologies?
I haven't received any today, thank you.
Thank you. Right, item 2, declarations of interest. Niall, could you please ask members in alphabetical order to state whether they have any interest to declare?
Of course, Chair. So if we can start with Councillor Ashley.
None.
Okay. Councillor Evans.
None that I'm aware of. Thanks.
Councillor Gordon.
Nothing from me.
Councillor Hawler.
Agenda item 4, I'm a member of Pontypool Community Council.
Okay. Councillor Gaynor James.
Yes, item 4, part of Pontypool Community Council.
Okay, and Councillor John James.
Yes, Pontypool Community Council again, item 4.
Okay, Councillor Janet Jones.
None that I'm aware of.
Councillor Mark Jones.
None to me.
Yourself, Chair.
Nothing to declare.
And Councillor Slade.
I think it's worth pointing out, I did attend Aberystwyth School, but it was many years ago when it was a grammar. But no, I've got no interest to declare.
Okay, that's everyone, Chair.
Thank you, Niall. Right, we'll move on to agenda item 3. Minutes of the Planning Committee from the 21st of May 2024. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to the minutes? If not, I will take them as approved. Right, I can't see any hands up, so we'll take them as approved. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 4, which is planning application 24/P/0138/FUL, and it's for proposed replacement of existing pitches to provide 3G pitch with spectator stands, dugouts, fencing, floodlighting, goal storage areas and floodlighting for existing tennis and netball courts at Abersychan Comprehensive School, Incline Road, Abersychan. Now, can I ask Mia McAndrew, Senior Planner, Senior Planner, to present the report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this application, as just explained, is seeking permission to provide a new 3G pitch, floodlighting and associated works at Abersychan School on Incline Road. To give some context, here's a satellite image of the site. So you can see there is on the northern end, there's an artificial games area, and then there's a grass pitch, and then to the south there's some existing courts. To the west there's the school building, and above that then there's the car park, and to the north and the east and the south there's residential properties. And here's another useful satellite image of the site. Here's the existing site plan, which designates those areas in a bit more detail, with the sports court to the north and then the existing pitch. And here's the proposed site plan. So you can see that the artificial games area and grass pitch would be replaced with a large 3G pitch, and there would be floodlighting, 8 floodlights around that pitch. And then for 2 of the courts to the south, there would be 8 floodlights put around those as well. And you can see here it's highlighted in red on the left. There's the existing school car park. So obviously this facility would be available for use for the school, but it would also be available for the local community to use outside school hours. So that car park would be fully available for visitors. Here's a more detailed plan of the pitch. So you can see there's 2 spectator stands on the one side and also dugouts between them. And on the 2 ends, there's goal storage areas. And you can see that on the southern end, on the left, there's an area designated for a SUD scheme. So there is an existing drainage issue at the site which can limit the use of the pitch. So not only would the 3G pitch be a more usable space all year, there would be a sustainable drainage scheme that would resolve the drainage issues at the site, and that would be subject to SAB consent. Here's some useful sections of the site. So you can see that the red line is the proposed levels, and the dotted green is the existing. So there would be a slight change, but it's not significant. And you can see on the one above that there's the hill that goes down, and it's got an existing fence, and then the neighbouring properties to the east are downhill. It's at a higher ground level. And here's some 3G images of the site and also of the spectator stands to give you a better view of what it would look like, including the floodlights on each side. So the fencing height around the 3G pitch would vary, but the highest part would be on the 2 ends, sort of on the goal end, so it would be 5-metre high fence and then 3-metre tall nets above that. Here's the plan of the floodlights. You can see the direction that the lights would be directed in. And here's a useful plan that it shows the light spillage. So the lights have been designed so that they direct the light into the pitches and the courts, but there is some natural spillage to the back, but it's minimal. One thing to note is that that spillage would affect bats during the foraging period. So there's a condition that prohibits the floodlights being used between April and October. So yeah, in conclusion, we're recommending that consent be granted for this scheme. We think it's a beneficial facility to support social health and well-being, and it's a good facility for the school and also for the local community. The local community will be able to walk there. And yes, so thank you.
Councillor Parish, you're on mute.
Thank you for telling me. Sorry, I was on mute then. Thank you, Mia. Niall, can you confirm if there are members wishing to comment or ask a question in the chamber?
Yes,
I can
Chair.
see hands up. Yes?
Yes, Chair. We have Councillor Gaynor James for a question.
Right. Right, we'll start off with Councillor Stuart Ashley.
There were several issues that were raised on them. Obviously, you've mentioned SUDS, which is sustainable drainage. There was discussion in the application about the what was it? The sewer there not being one that was. If I remember reading it rightly, that there was a sewer there which was not public sewer. It's something that was existing there. I'm very much in support of this. Just to be clear about with my line of questioning, that I'm in support of this. It's a much needed resource, but there's obviously several issues that are going to come up. One is sustainable urban drainage, which you've mentioned. The other is tree cover. If you look at that map, there's an amazing amount of tree around it, but I believe you put conditions on about replacing trees and that they should be British natives. There's the issue with bats, which and floodlighting, which the ecologist has addressed. And I would have concerns about that with that amount of treeage around it. And then the other issue about light pollution, which is also mentioned in the report. Could you outline that to the committee and mitigations, please? Because I think they're important. I hadn't noticed before, but how much residential there is also around that one. I mean, as I said, it's a much needed resource. And I think what you suggested in terms of car parking and use of the facility, it seems reasonably, what the developers are suggesting is very sound. But obviously, as with other schools that I know, it has to be well managed, and all those issues, I think, can be managed. But we need to hear what developers propose.
Right. Thank you, Stuart. Mia, could you answer the questions, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So starting with SUDS, the development, because of its scale, it would be subject to SAB consent. So the details of the Sustainable Drainage Scheme would be agreed with the SAB authority. But there's space made for it within the sites. They've shown that to the south of the pitch there would be 2 swales, which is quite a large SUDS area. But the details would be agreed with the SAB authority, who are the experts with that, and they'd need consent granted to make sure that it would work. For the trees, they are proposing to remove trees, and you're right that there are a lot of trees around it. Luckily, because they're proposing to replace existing sports facilities in the same location, and those trees are around the perimeter, the harm to trees would be quite limited. They are proposing to remove trees, but the trees that they're proposing to remove are damaged or dying, and the majority of them are ash, which obviously there's an ongoing issue with ash dieback. The tree that isn't ash to be removed is one purple plum tree, and that's damaged, and also an Acer as well that has failed within a tree group. So there's 6 individual trees to be removed. And then there's ash in 7 tree groups and the Acer as well in a tree group. So there's a condition, I think it's condition 6, that requires a replacement scheme for the trees, so we can ensure that the trees that are being removed because they're damaged or dying are suitably replaced, and that there would be a replacement ratio that's in line with national policy. And then the last one was bats. So yeah, the lighting is being directed and being designed so it's directed into the pitch and the courts, but there is a natural spillage, which is minimal, but during that bat foraging period between April and October, it is considered that it would have an impact on them. And obviously they're a protected species, so that's not acceptable. So that's why we've had to put a condition on that prohibits the use of the floodlights between April and October. And I guess also to note is that the floodlights have been designed so that they're dimmable. So during training sessions, they could have dimmable, so it's less lighting, but during games, I guess they would have to have the full lighting. So hopefully that answers all of your questions.
Well, couple of quick couple of observations. Some of us the tree question, obviously that's comprehensively covered in the application. I've got no problem with that. The only one is that would the trees be that they're replacing them be sufficiently mature enough to grow off quickly? The problem we got with the ash trees, and it's a universal problem throughout the borough, is whether we're putting big ones back in or we're putting whips back in. And we've got substantial tree cover in this borough. I mean, that map, it's amazing the amount of trees around there. And as you've said, we've got ash dieback. That's one question. The other thing is with floodlights and that amount of housing and the trees going in, us taking the trees out, have we done a light survey as to see what the effect would be on the homes and the vantage points? Because anybody that lives where I live will know that even though the floodlights, the nearest ones I've got to me, are nearly half a mile away, you can, where the trees are being taken out, you can see that. And I'm wondering not wanting to delay this application, but it would be useful to know that effect, because you can see these things from an awful long way away, especially if you've got glass in the way. And it would be useful to know whether they've done that observation. Vantage points to floodlights is something. Now, as I said, I don't want to delay the application, but it's an observation I will make. Anybody that knows certain schools around where I live would know what I'm on about.
Right, thank you. Would you like to comment, Mia?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So regarding tree age, the condition requires the scheme to be in detail agreed at that stage. So I know the details of the replacement. There's pros and cons of tree age in terms of if you have whips, then they're smaller, but they're more likely to survive. If you have larger trees, and obviously there's an initial better impact, but less likely to survive. But either way, the conditions requires the tree maintenance and replacement if they fail. So, and then also with the ratio, we'd be making sure that we're not going to place tree 1 for 1, because obviously that wouldn't give adequate coverage, like you say. So national aims are 1 to 3. So that's what we aim for. And then in terms of the removal of trees and then the subsequent impact of that, if you have a look in the tree survey, most of the trees that are to be removed are to the south of the pitch, and then also along the west of it. So it's more within the school grounds rather than along the site boundary, because as I say, the pitch is sort of replacing an existing pitch, so most of the trees around the outside are sort of to be left alone, and there's measures in the tree survey to protect those trees during the construction works. So I don't think that the removal of the trees would have an amenity impact on the neighbouring properties. Thank you.
Thank you there.
Thank you, Mia. I'll bring Councillor Gaynor James in now for her question. Gaynor?
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's just a statement from myself that this is a no-brainer. It's absolutely really well needed. The application is really good and it's fantastic for future well-being, and I will be voting for this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Gaynor. Right, we have 2 more questions. Councillor Mark Jones, would you like to come in now?
Yes, thanks. Well, not so much questions, just clarity, really. Just brought it up when we went through it a few months ago. The facility, fantastic facility, and long overdue. The pitch itself, just want to make sure it's on record that it has the extra padding, so it can obviously be fine for rugby games, unlike the one at Cumbrian Stadium, which is not. So that's one question. And the second one, the actual spectator area, what kind of capacity does that hold, please?
Right, Mia, will you answer them, please? Questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in terms of the capacity of the spectator stands, it's 50 seats per stand, and there's 2, so that would be 100. In terms of the whether the pitch would be suitable for rugby as well, I would presume so, but I would have to go and double check and could report back to you to confirm. But given that obviously the education department want this to be a all-rounder sports facility, not just for sort of football, and then I would safely presume so, but we'd have to go and confirm this for you.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted obviously confirmation, because after spending so much money, you know, it'd be awful. And if the extra padding wasn't put out, I know it probably is there, but if you could just clarify it, that would be great. Thanks.
Right, thank you. Right, thank you. Next one I got is Councillor Stephen Evans. Steve?
Thank you, Chair. I got 3. The first one, on your times in the report, what is the difference between that and the school holidays when there's no school pupils on it? So how is it going to be managed? You know, who's going to be looking at it to make sure there's no antisocial behaviour, whether it be CCTV or whatever it is? And the third point is, how long will this 3G pitch surface last? And how long is the maintenance scheduled on it to make sure it lasts for that time period?
Right, thank you, Steve. Mia, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Chair. I guess as with any school facility, then it would just be a matter for the school to manage. You know, I presume a caretaker is the same as after school hours. They would be managing it, and I presume it would be the same during the school holidays. And obviously it's an important facility for the schools, and it's a council site as well, so it would be in our interest to manage that effectively. But it's sort of outside the scope of the planning application, I would say. Thank you.
Okay, Steve?
Yeah, just to come back, and the reason I raised that, because I've got normal pitches within my ward, with the dugouts and everything, but because of antisocial behaviour, I'm concerned that all the money is being invested in it, that it don't end up in a short time period because of issues with people damaging it. So that was the reason I asked that question. So, yeah.
Right, thank you. Niall, is there someone in the chamber wishing to ask a question?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Janet Jones.
Right. Janet, would you like to ask your question?
Thanks, Chair. My only one question. In regard to the proximity to the residential properties on Incline Road, because I too went to Upsecond, is there some sort of barrier or a bigger area to stop, you know, the antisocial here with the children climbing over, you know, residential fences? Because we did it in Crossy Killig, I think. We had a bigger, wider, like a barrage area, which was clear. Is there any chance of that going down with the contractors?
Mia?
Sorry, Chair, if it's okay, I'll answer that question.
Thank you.
Obviously, there's fencing all around the pitch that's being proposed. We're only considering what's being proposed in this plan application. There isn't any proposal for any additional fencing around the application site. But that's, again, a matter for the school and the authority to consider. And as I said, the facility's already there for one at the moment, so there isn't any difference in planning circumstances to what's being proposed, really.
Thank you. I have no objections. I think it's much needed up in the north of the borough, so I will be voting for it, I assure you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Steve Evans, you want to come back in?
Yeah, just I'd like to propose the application, if that's okay, Chair.
Right, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Right. Niall, could you please ask members in alphabetical order to state whether they are for, against, or are abstaining?
Of course. If we can start then with Councillor Ashley.
For.
Okay, Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Gordon.
For.
Councillor Haller.
For.
Councillor Gaynor James.
For.
Councillor John James.
For.
Councillor Janet Jones.
For.
Councillor Mark Jones.
For.
Yourself, Chair. Chair, I believe you're on mute. Yourself, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't realise I was on mute. I'm for.
Okay, and Councillor Slade.
Yes, for me as well.
Okay, that's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right. This application has obviously been approved. Right, that's the end of this meeting for today. I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance and your contributions, and I'll now close the meeting.